It gives me great privilege to introduce three of our faculty members who are with us today. I'd like to start with Poonam Mishra, who is the hot favorite of the Styling and Communication program. She's the Associate Dean for Fashion Communication and Styling. She's an alumnus of NIFT. She has worked with every brand, name it, and she has been part of their growth story, their creative story, right from chemistry to Zara to Debenhams. She's played a very crucial role in ensuring that some of the latest trends have been adapted, some of the latest products have been created, and most importantly, the styles that we see today. We also have with us Arun Lakra, who leads our fashion luxury design program. Arun is also an alumnus of NIFT, and he's pursued his post-graduation in textile design from NID, and runs one of the most exciting programs, which I would say goes across textiles, goes across fashion, goes across Bollywood, goes across couture, and really a very, very popular leader of the school. But I think we're also most excited to welcome Mohan. Mohan really is someone who I would say is a graduate of the National Institute of Fashion Technology as well. But more importantly, every single cover that you would have seen, whether it's Vogue, whether it's Harper's Bazaar, whether it's Verve, whether it's Elle, I would say 50% of those covers would have probably been done under Mohan's guidance or even led those covers. So Mohan, welcome, and thank you for being part of this evening. I can go on and on and on, but I think it's really everyone's show today. So Poonam, over to you.
Thank you, Siddharth, for that lovely introduction, and very happy to be here with all my colleagues from fashion. I think this is one of the first time that we've all been together. So especially the three of us who are also really good friends, if I may say so. And we're really looking forward to this webinar today because we want to bring to you this fantastic, fabulous, ever-evolving industry. And we want to discuss, reveal what happens. And especially, I'm very excited. The way we do it at ISD is very unique, and we would love to share that with all the participants today. So I'm going to hand it over to Arun because he is the one who's going to start with the presentation. But let's see. Arun, to just start off, I think the fashion industry has got many levels, right? And people really get very confused in what is it that they really want to study? How is it they want to take this forward, navigate their careers, or, what really goes on in different domains of fashion. So I think let's first start with the whole process and systems and how fashion is such a robust, but very interconnected, value-driven ecosystem. Would you like to say something around that, Arun, and then we can start from there? Or Mohan?
Actually, I would like to talk about the second phrase you've used, ever evolving, which is, I think, something fashion is kind of so mercurial that, every year there's something new. So I think fashion thinking, it's very important to be very broad-minded in your thought process so that you are able to adapt. Like 2 years ago, no one really thought, there was artificial intelligence, but applying in fashion, now Bangalore has all sorts of startups who are doing artificial intelligence in fashion. So fashion thinking also, I think, involves thought process, broad-minded.
To add to that, I think we should get out of that bubble of saying fashion is only about glitz and glam. There's lots of thinking which goes, like Mohan said, there's lots of thinking which goes on with the product, especially because everybody does everything. How are you different is what we need to think. And I think that's what we do at ISD to rigorously channelize the thought processes to make it special or unique going forward.
Absolutely. I've realized in the past 2 decades that, I have been working in this industry. Every season brings itself a really new new aesthetics, and absolutely it's like a new wave of style. And also the market, the consumer behavior, people who actually want to buy for fashion or who indulge in fashion, even their behavior is changing every season. And be it in the form of latest trends or the way the business needs to navigate itself and mold itself, how purchasing changes, how experiences change. So it's ever evolving. It's many of us have noticed, like the way Mohan said, it's going into various different fields. And especially the pandemic, has really sparked such a massive change in this industry. It's a very exciting time to be for all you students to be in this industry. And I think that is what we are going to discuss today. Through our students' projects and work that we do at ISD, we would love to share a whole load of insights within the industry. I'm going to pass this on to Arun first, and then I will speak to you a little bit beyond what he says. And then, of course, Mohan is here, who's going to take you to the next level. So over to you, Arun.
Also to add, for everybody, when we were students, we had limited opportunities. And over the years, you can create your own opportunity. That's the beauty of the time, that's why startups have started. And people are bringing out the niche thinking to create a business for themselves as well. So that is wonderful. And like you said, during the pandemic, people have evolved and thought what needs to be the new thing in maybe fashion or a product, or how does it evolve amongst the market. So let's take you through the whole fashion cycle or fashion thinking, what we say, or just take you through fashion per se. So we won't talk about fashion design totally, but we'll talk fashion in general, which encapsulate everything in fashion or whatever you perceive as fashion. So like Paul Rand says, the designer does not begin with some preconceived idea. Rather, the idea is a result of careful study and observation, and the design a product of that idea. So I will take you through what the product is all about and how it evolves and how we do it at ISD, or how do we ingrain that thought process to make yourself unique. So obviously, if you aspire to get into fashion, most of the people I interview is, oh, I want to be, my favorites are, Manish Malhotra and Sabyasachi Sachi. I mean, they have worked over the years to where they are, and they've made a name, but there is more beyond, much more beyond that. What's beyond the product which we see. So all the fashion shows and all the glitz and glamour is the surface, which is, I feel, which goes off in 15 minutes. But what happens beyond that or before that is what we are looking into. That's how you make yourself different. So we're talking about, when we get into design, it's more about research. Lots of brainstorming and mind mapping. You have to go out and do your research to understand what people are looking at. Because if you don't know what people are looking at, then what do you design? And if you don't design what people are looking at, you'll never sell. And if you never sell, you never earn money. And if you don't earn money, you come back to square one. So you start again. So that research is very important. And we try to emphasize that even if your product is the simplest of simple, but if your research is robust, you can dwell into other aspects as well, because you've touched in that research different aspects of understanding. So that is what we focus on primarily, how much you research, and research goes beyond what you see. So internet is not the only medium of research. You go to talk to people, you read, everything is available if you want to. So that's what research is all about. So we're not looking at only focusing on research from the Google or Pinterest or all the avenues, Instagram. That's somebody else's idea. We're looking at developing you as a unique personality through this research. Then we come to creating an idea or an inspiration. And in design and in product, we say inspiration is around. I mean, you can get inspired by anything around you. So that's what we're looking at. So a product has to be strong, taking all this into consideration. So if you see the latest Lakme Fashion Week shows and all, you'll say, oh, it looks interesting, but what goes behind it, what is the inspiration, is what we tell you to tackle around. And that gives you difference from your other colleagues? How are you unique, or how are you different, or how you see things differently? That small difference makes a big difference. So the small change makes a big difference, or a small thought makes a big difference. That's how you stand apart as a designer. Going forward, color plays a big role in fashion. Uh, if you experience yourself, when you go shopping, color is the first thing you get attracted to. So we also look at how color evolves around in product, because color is the fundamental visual appeal. You know, if you like the color, you go, it attracts you. So that is very important, that if you have an idea what colors you should play with, color also comes along with trends. So we'll talk about that as well, how trends influence ideas. After, color also is influenced by what people want. So your market is very essential. You know, when you understand your market, you understand what product they are doing. And when we say product here, we're talking about fashion product, lifestyle products, not the product design product, which is more industrial design. How do you influence market? What new are you doing that people should buy from you? And when we say product, it's not only about designers, it's also about retail and uh, small businesses which are evolving. So if you go to Instagram, there's so many businesses which have evolved over 2 years of lockdown. So what are you giving to the market which is different? How do you stand differently? So client understanding of study needs to be very strong. Obviously, when you have a product, you also understand who's doing what. So understanding of your competitors, your market, your target market, everything is interesting because you get to learn from the people who we say are laymen. But the insights they give are interesting because that will evolve you to make something for the market. Coming to trends, trends is everywhere. We have to understand trends to bring out the best or the new things which are evolving. If you understand the trends, you're giving new things. And when we say trends, obviously in fashion domain, we are talking about sustainability this time. Of over the years, that is also a trend. People are coming back to environmental conscious sustainability. That has also become a trend now. Within that sustainability, what are you doing new? Or what new color or what new fabric you're creating? That is all trends. What new styles you're bringing along, because in fashion people want everything to look different. You won't buy the same thing every day. You want yourself to be different. So beyond that is also about materials. When we talk about materials, what new materials are you bringing to the to the people? If you get new materials, people will get attracted. So all the latest, if you see, everything is digitally enhanced. So we have 3D printing. We have, if you see a designer called Iris Van Harpen, she's totally technologically driven. So though it's not textiles, but she's creating material which is wearable, which is experimental. And all of this is also with collaboration from different design domains, because you keep ever evolving. Like I said, it keeps evolving. So it's not only about cotton, silk, linen, but it's other materials which can be wearable. So for giving an example, accessories, there is a company, if I may say, in Kerala, which is doing leather, which is for leather from pineapple extracts or seaweed extracts. So that is coming back to sustainability or waste. So that is what we're looking at, materials also. What techniques you use? How are you different? Because everybody does everything. So coming to techniques is also interesting because then, you explore the techniques to create something new. And people are driven to say that I want to buy something which is different. I don't want something which my friend has or everybody else has. So how are you looking at taking the same material but reinventing it and making it or bringing in a new factor to it? How are you different from what's happening around? So that's what we also believe at SD is, if you do things by hand, you learn what not to do, what to do, because that's the skill you develop. And if you have the skill, talent of how to do things, it can take you further, because from that skill, you can develop other skills which will help enhance your design capabilities. exploring. Exploration is a very key word, which if you go to any design discipline, they always say explore, explore material, explore forms, explore patterns, and it's explore and experiment is something which we like students exploring, experiment and exploiting material to bring out something new. And it can be from whatever inspiration you have. So there is no stopping you from saying that this is it, because you keep evolving all the time with design. So how do you explore ideas? How do you absorb or observe ideas to make yourself different? Is how you stand different from your other colleagues. Playing with silhouettes, design derivation. So again, the more you do, the more ideas you have. And I always tell students, keep asking yourself, can I do this? Can I do this? What if I do this? Will I be able to do this? So the more you ask yourself, the more avenues open for you. And like if you saw the video, like Anando said, design gives you that freedom to do anything you want to do. So that freedom is where you design derivation or design development is. You let yourself free. And with that, I would also like to say, now I see students are a little wary about taking risks. Rather, as design or a product person, I always say, let yourself be free, take risks. Doesn't make a difference if it goes wrong. You learn from that and you know what not to do next. So that risk-taking factor is where we set people apart. The more you take risks, the more you know what not to do and how to go about it. Also, with all the ideation, when we come to the final working of the idea, maybe it can be a garment, it can be an accessory, anything, it's the process. How did you develop it? Because that's very important to understand, because if you have to go back to recapture the process of making, that helps you. So we like students to capture all moments of step-by-step process of working, because that helps you to evolve also to do something else. So in that product domain, we always tell students to capture ideas, what new they are doing, because that becomes like a dictionary for you to go forward. So that idea remains with you, and how do you exploit that idea to bring out different products is totally up to you. So that's what we try to emphasize, that your product has to be something which is market driven, like you said, in the client. Which domain of market you want to capture is totally up to you. So we always see with fashion evolving, we always see all the big names. But there are retail houses who also require designers. There are export houses who also require designers. There are buying houses who also require designers. So there is a big opportunity in the fashion aspect where people can work. And obviously, in the next 4 years, there will be more opportunities and avenues to exploit your capability to enter into any field, is what we give as an ideation, a concept-driven thought process, which leads you to, different avenues. So if your ideation, conceptualization is strong, the avenues open automatically, however you want to do. So that's what we focus on in the design perspective or the product perspective. And we at B.Des are very, very, anal about, we have to do it perfect. Because if it's not perfect, then it doesn't make sense to do it at all. Karna hai to achhe se karo, na mat karo. Give you 101%, then you'll also feel proud of what you do. That is more important. Whether your product is the simplest of product, but if it looks fantastic, that wow factor comes in, that means you've achieved what you started for. So that's what we are, concentrating on. And skill development happens over the 3 years. And beyond product, what happens? It's another field altogether. So when we say product, it's all about making product material and finishing and all those things. But after product, what happens? So there is another big industry beyond product. What you see, what you look at, is what takes product to another level. And so I like Poonam to add to what happens after the product is made, beyond the product. So over to you, Poonam.
Thank you, Arun. Just a second, I'll just try and share my slide, and we'll just be on this in a moment.
And all the question answer we'll take at the end of the session. So we'll talk about what fashion is all about in a bigger context, what it entails, and then whatever you have questions, we'll address that.
Okay, so I hope my slides are available and visible to everyone. So thank you, Arun. I think you've set the tone really well and talked to us about how a certain part of the industry, takes what it does and how it, it takes care of the product domain. And largely we call it the primary and the secondary market, where, a large number of these consumer goods that you see when you go out to shop are created. And definitely it's a very, very creative zone. The production of raw materials, now it's becoming so artisanal. It looks at sustainability, the production of these fashion goods and garments. And then, of course, it has to go beyond the product. And that's what I want to take forward. Now, having spent 2 decades, I have seen that this industry has boundlessly evolved, okay? And it's a very competitive market today. It's a very complex industry. The consumers actually have, gone are the days when the designer used to actually decide what people should be wearing. The tables have turned, and now the consumers hold the power. And the brands actually need to go out and monitor what the consumer trends are to be able to deliver what they want. So this fashion landscape currently is not only a very crowded space, it's a very competitive space, and it's a very consumer driven space. All right. It's also moving at a very frantic pace. Of course, people want to go slow, but if you look at it largely, even today, it's moving at a frantic pace. People are used to fast fashion, and there's a huge amount of responsibility to everybody who's working in this industry to then go back to a healthy, slow pace industry. So now the industry demands a workforce which not only has a strong artistic vision, but also is able to have very strong business acumen. And also it wants people to be able to balance both of these, the artistic vision and the business acumen. And that's when, the larger part of the industry starts coming into action. So I'm going to take you through that. Now let's look at business, okay? We at B.Des offer you various number of business courses within the fashion domain. And of course, we help our students to understand business from a very strong, innovative lens. So how does this innovation create the potential to handle future disruption and also to be disruptors? So I'm going to talk about the project that is displayed right now in front of you. This was a collaborative project the students did with a label called Eero. Just the way Arun said, everything starts with the research. So the process is almost the same. It's investigation, ideation, concept building, and then of course application, and then of course impact. Because you want to know how what you decide and do creates a strong, what kind of an impact it creates in society. So the project I have put on my slide is a business project, but it's just not business. It's dealt with a very strong creative thinking, okay? So it's basically about how do you develop a multi-channel communication strategy. Now it will start with a strong business research. So you go out and study the business venture. You collect a lot of foundational data. Of course, like, a secondary research, which is through, secondary sources, internet, books, libraries, anything, movies, YouTube, whatever is data that is already there available to you. And of course, backed also by an investigation through primary research, where you go and gather first-hand information, where you go talk to the people in the brand, go talk to consumers. That is something that is very, very, very rigorous. And we really build everything on this investigation and data collected from here. All decisions are derived from this data. If you're looking at the brand, you look at the brand's vision, because the brand vision is what gives you the hope and what you need to achieve in future. You look at these are just small bits that I have added. Okay, this is far more intense. Of course, we can't present everything to you right now, but then looking at the value chain, how at every stage the supply chain is actually catering and bringing more and more value. When you're sourcing material and when the movement increases, how are you still bringing value to it? This process also helps you to analyze what are the goals of a company, what are the challenges of a company, what is the objective that they have for that particular students. Like I said, students will come to decisions derived by the data that they have collected, and then they go out to evaluate, interpret, and then of course generate insights behind the fact sheets that you have. And then of course, because the project here assignment was to create a communication strategy, it must align to the organization, the culture, which is a very important part of our pedagogy. We really look at cultures deeply, and definitely the kind of macro environment that we are living in today. All of this help you to devise a great strategy. And then, of course, what you see is what the students have done, a packaging design, and then definitely how packaging creates PR, how it is sent out, how then, of course, influencer marketing comes into picture. I also spoke about how we need to get extremely sustainable in the way we do businesses. So what can we do to bring that thought out? So here, if you see, they did the packaging design, they did the influencer marketing, they're doing the digital marketing, they're looking at even traditional media, for example, writing a blog and doing it for a magazine, a feature on the magazine, or maybe on the digital channel, or probably podcasts. In fact, I think podcasts were very popular during the pandemic. People have really gone back to listening to podcasts, and that's how a media strategy is developed. And then you go out to see what kind of engagement you are able to do with the consumers and the larger market. And of course, this is how you will go out to really create a community, and of course, engagement with local followers, global followers, and that's how you really go out to grow a bigger community and have that presence. The bigger the community, the more people will endorse what you're doing, the more the business is going to thrive, right? Both digital and traditional media strategies were suggested in this project. Of course, there was a very important target group study that the students did and suggested a very strong design solution in mind. And then that's how they develop a campaign. I have live streaming also is very important today. You just open your phone and there's something happening in the world that is streamed live to you. You can see a little bit of the behind the scene that the students worked around. How did they put together everything that they do to bring the completion of a project. And then of course they also created a brand film. So films, campaigns, all of this is part of the fashion studies. Now this is a very, very interesting film that they created. When you will watch the film, I have actually I'll mute the sound, but when you go and look at this film, what are you seeing? You're seeing the clothes, which must be hired and sourced by, if it is somebody else, the designer. Here it is from the brand, the art direction, the location, the concept of the film, the making of the film, the photography, the videography. What are they trying to, what is the story that they want to say? The head to toe styling, everything. Then of course, casting. Everything is a part of this film. So now I'm going to just let you look at the film and see how you're able to connect the dots between what me and Arun have just said.
I lost my balance. And that's when the colors started to change.
So that was the film, and moving on to the next part, which is of course everybody's favorite, and that's fashion styling. We offer a very, very strong domain in fashion styling. Now, everybody thinks fashion styling is so glamorous, it is so beautiful, it is just about dressing up. But no, that is what I really want to clearly put it out to everybody. While it's a lot of fun, while it looks very exciting and you get to dress up, dress exciting people, there's an entire huge work that force I mean huge amount of work that goes behind the scenes. Now, just the way fashion is contemporary culture, of course, but styling is the creative strategy or the creative energy. It impacts businesses and human lives. And through this presentation, I'm going to tell you that it's just not about selection of clothes. Our students are very, very clear that they want to deep dive into the cultural research, and we believe that our stylists are essentially storytellers. That is what ISTI style fashion styling is about, and it's just more than dressing up. It has more to do with current culture, tapping onto that, focusing more on the stylist's ability to be a visual narrator and be able to tell fantastic fashion stories to the audiences. So if you look at this project, it again starts with its interesting brief, could be a client brief, could be a professor's brief, and then you develop, you ideate, you sit on that brief, you discuss with your team or singularly about the brief, and you come up with a concept note. The concept is what everything will be built on. The concept also evolves from deep research that you before that. Here, for example, the concept note was around tarot card, and then of course they decoded some of the tarots. You can also see behind the scenes so much of an effort goes before the styling shoot happens. It also gives you a glimpse of how good styling must always connect people to good styling must also connect people to the stylist, the clothes to the individual, and not just remain as just good looking clothes. And then of course fuel purchase, because when you're doing this, what is the point? You're not just doing it for the sake of art, you're doing it for great business. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. And we also demonstrate a lot of culture, or we also look into a lot of culture. So if you see what this particular project, it looked back to the history of times, and then derived from there how it could, first they did a very, very proper recreation of how the clothes were essentially worn at a particular century, at a particular time. But now how can they recreate it? So they take a lot, fashion is always cyclical, it takes a lot from the past. So how do you recreate it with a touch of modernity? Of course, when you're doing styling, and like I said, it starts with interpreting the client brief, developing it into unique concepts, mood boarding it. Mood board is a great tool to tell people how what your idea is, how do you communicate the idea visually, and then of course go out to source. Market sourcing is very important. That is when you have a budget and you have to work within the budget. So your economics, your commerce sensibilities have to be very strong. Which are the designers, which are the brands you're going to source? Your interpersonal relationships, how do you maintain that with important people or everybody? If you have to go and do some alterations, then how do you do that with the karigars? Everything needs to be handled well, and it's everything put together without, like I said, neglecting the commercial reality, okay, and the reality of the market. And then creating the right imagery with the right lighting, with the right art direction, hair and makeup, the right clothes, shapes, textures, elements, everything, the colors, all of this creative formula is then put together that makes sense, and then it comes together in the form of what you see. So I'm going to also show you something. So this is the historical recreation which they did. Derived from this, they had the modern touch, and I'm going to play that film in a film form. Okay, this is part of the the editorial shoot, but it's just a small part. I'm going to play it in the film form so you have a better understanding.
If I'm the empress, you're the empress upside down. String me a necklace, I've got the neck to wrap the beads around, 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 around. I'm reading tarot, baby, you're reading tea leaves. We know full well neither's gonna bring us peace. I'm reading tarot, baby, I'm looking for a sign that our fortune's turning round tonight. If I'm the empress, you're the empress upside down. String me a necklace, I've got the neck to wrap the beads around. Empress, wove the thorns to make my crown. Spare me the mist.
Would you want to jump in and say something, because this is the course that you teach at ISTE?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of covered the whole process, concept, sourcing, outcome, and of course, you've shown the entire shoot also. But what I would actually like to say here is that the students are expected to justify. Okay, so they took this period from history because they're also doing history of fashion simultaneously along with fashion styling in the same semester. So they took that period of history, they recreated it, but why tarot? Why is tarot related to that particular period of history, and how are they justifying it? Now that I think is very important, because you don't just pluck a thing out of the air and say, okay, this is it. Similarly, actually, what we were saying before, trends, there's a reason why a particular trend is a trend. It's not just because Zara and H&M thought, oh, red is a lovely color, from tomorrow we'll do everything in red. No, there is actually a justification why red is the color of the season. So I think that is very, very important, and our students through this process actually learn that.
So, I was just coming to that. In fact, I was going to show that as the next project was, of course, speculating what fashion is going to be. And this is the slide that talks about it. It's a course that we teach at ISTE, which demonstrate a very, very important tool that is called forecasting for fashion. First analyzing and then forecasting in fashion. It is a tool to predict the future fashion needs and desires of consumers. Maybe to fashion brands, maybe to anybody who needs it, right? So this is a very important course. Of course, like I said, the process remains same. Now you all have to understand the process is always the same, but how do you have an approach depending what part of fashion that you are really trying to decipher at that point of time. So here is analyzing trends. That's the course that we have. Again, this is taught across all domains, all courses, and we just have to change the lens. So, you'll have to see how your assignment brief comes in, but the process almost remains the same. So it starts with the investigation. It starts with, again, ideation. It starts with then building a concept, and then, of course, application, outcome, impact. So now, because, the course is so important, because, you can actually speculate fashion needs. This particular course was, of course, where the students actually did all of this process, and then they actually played a role of a consulting forecasting agency. They took a luxury brand called Rodart, which is very fantasy, which is very, very, it has a very unique place in luxe fashion. And then they suggested a macro trend for them. What do you keep in mind? You keep in mind many factors which will influence. So macro and micro environment. You observe cultural influences, political influences, economical influences. Color is just not predicted, like, oh, it's not like Mera wala pink should be the, the next big color. No, There's a huge process that goes, and then you look at all of these factors, how they influence, what are people feeling at that point of time, and that's how things are predicted. So students collaborate, they acted as a hypothetical forecasting agency, and they developed a macro trend proposal for Rodart, which is the luxury brands. Again, this is the mood board that they created. They also gave the macro trend a name. So it's tailored potpourri. And what would the colors be, how the silhouettes would be, what would be the textures, what would be the look and feel, and everything that goes in a trend forecast, which you will learn when you come to school. The concept note, like I said, the campaign that they created for it. Then again, the whole styling process starts from there. What are the clothes that you will put together? How's the look that you will put together? What's going to be the hair and makeup? What is going to be the campaign setting? You can see bits of it on my screen. Everything is then molded according to your research. Okay, so there's a lot of hard work and a lot of thinking. So, Arun showed you the iceberg. What you see is just the top of the iceberg, but what is beneath the iceberg is what actually brings the whole strategy, the whole depth in academics. And that's what we are very, very, very clear that we want each one of you to, study, do, perform, whatever that it takes to act. Everything depends on that. The authenticity of your work depends on the kind of research that you and what you bring together to the table. And that's how I think you also bring innovative solutions to the table, right? So now all of this poses, what is going to be the end result. They also called their company, they gave it a name. And then of course, these were the 3 outcomes that they came up. Finally, this is the outcome stage. This is what they came up with. Mohan, if you want to say something, just jump in, okay? Because I'm just going to tell them the basic process of how it's done, because very anecdotes.
No, actually, this was the ad campaign they did for Rodart. But what is exciting is that it was a group project, and these 3 students actually spent 1 week, just going around. One was in Kerala, I think, and one was in Mumbai. So they just went around their respective cities taking pictures. So they shot fruit sellers, vegetable sellers, they shot what people are wearing on the street, they shot nightclubs, lounges, what people are eating, because I told them I want to see all the factors, not just fashion. I want to see political, cultural, social, economical. So what people were buying, what car people were driving, what was the new building complex. So they actually did that before they concluded, okay, potpourri is something which is the trend which they're calling potpourri tailored, is something which is what people will go towards maybe 2 years from now. Because this is the slow shift which is happening, not only in fashion, but across all other political, social, cultural mediums. So I think we had a lot of fun as well. It is intense, it's a lot of hard work, but I think that's what we do, right? In our courses, they actually enjoy the hard work, which I think is great.
Absolutely. And, I remember the jury went so well. We had somebody from the Ministry of Textiles actually coming to school. Mohan had invited. She also was very thrilled about this project. And Mohan, I think somewhere, when they say potpourri, I do see a lot of bloom as trend currently, right? This was a pandemic project, but if you look at largely, there's Gucci is doing Gucci bloom, somebody's doing bloom. There's a lot of florals and bloom coming in. So in a way, we were really close to what was going to be seen. So I'll move on to another project, which is of course I think people, when you look at fashion, they forget stores, or I don't know if they remember it, but let me tell you that post pandemic, I think people thought that stores will die. But actually, it's just the opposite that has happened. And this was a project that, the students did for Masaba, again, a hypothetical project. They basically wanted to talk about the spatial experience that a Masaba store should provide. I see there's no slowing down that's happening as far as stores. They've just become great experience centers and have transformed into multi-sensory experience spaces, right? So this was a project that they did for Masaba. They called the whole project as Masaba Mela. They also collaborated with somebody who does a fantastic paper craft, and they create this beautiful multi-sensorial experience for the Masaba store and in Hyderabad. And this, of course, is the field of visual merchandising. Visual merchandising actually is a very important part of fashion. And what do visual merchandisers do? They basically use the physical space for visual communication. And the project actually demonstrated exactly what a visual merchandiser do. It takes a lot of thorough study, again, brand study, retail study, product study. Everything is part of this project. So it's very rigorous research. Study your retail space, the city, the people of the city, the target market, what is, of course, the new and current trends that's happening in the retail space. And then if you want to do any collaboration, then that is important, of course, that strategy. And then, of course, how do you create that beautiful multisensorial experience? And again, that's human beings in a space, and how a human being is experiencing the space. So all of this is part of I want to also talk about softwares, digital softwares that become a very important part of your, academic journey. I think that is it goes across everywhere. So this was a small walkthrough that they created, and you'll be using all kind of design softwares. You'll be learning all of them because, the future is really digital and you need to communicate digitally. So that is something that also will make sure that we teach you, and then you must give it a lot of importance, because that's what you really need to know. That's something that will help you communicate and send it across to any part of the world. Gone are the days when I had to take my worksheet, meet the client, tell them what I have in mind. That has changed. So coming to technology, now the world is moving towards technological solutions, and the fashion industry is not behind. In fact, when Mohan said people have in Bangalore are, fashion designers, fashion communicators, fashion stylists, fashion business professionals are collaborating with game designers. So, the fashion industry is really, in fact, moving ahead along with whatever technological innovations are happening. It is adapting to these technologies, and it's making everything smarter. Everything needs to be smart. So this was a great project that one of our thesis year students did. It was about smart weddings. Okay, the pandemic had deprived a lot of luxuries of what a human contact can bring. But weddings are always celebratory. Weddings are in fact non-recession markets in India. So in fact, a lot of that was going on, and people needed some solutions without coming, having the human touch, but still go on. So this was a project where the student actually researched a lot around weddings, technology, how, people want to go and adapt to these things, even in a very strong traditional market. So she did, again, secondary research. One second. So she did a lot of research, and then she came up with this very nice solution where she curated an unparalleled experience of a smart wedding for smart couples. So I'm going to show you what she did. So this is about how can you decide with a designer what you want to wear for your wedding. And this is absolutely without any human contact. So let's have a look at this one. It's, of course, using augmented reality. That brings me, to the end of my part. I just want to let you all know that, the idea that you all have about fashion, I hope it's not limited, because it's an absolutely, like I said, boundlessly evolving industry. It has so much for everyone to do. And I think sometimes it's really difficult to predict where it's going to go, because, you're just starting up. And, I don't know if you guys are aware, but we're talking so much about the meta. We have students already working on projects how to navigate the metaverse. So don't be surprised to see when you come into school next year, most of our projects around the metaverse would be displayed for you all to see. And that is the dynamism of a fashion industry. I've absolutely enjoyed my journey in the past 20 years, and I can also vouch for both my colleagues who are here. And it's always very challenging. You're constantly learning, always on your toes. It's never boring. It's a lot of fun. And I really hope to see you guys doing very well in this particular discipline. I'm going to now move on to Mohan and give him, pass it on to him, because he's going to talk to you about industry, right? After all, where does everything lead to? To the industry. We are also a very important part of the industry as education. But the real world is what I'm going to hand it over to Mohan to actually take us forward with. So Mohan, I'm going to share the slide. And
yeah, I'm also making a disclaimer, because I just got a flash on my laptop saying my internet is unstable. So I'm on hotspot. So Poonam, I will have to trouble you whenever you don't hear from me. There is complete silence, which means I've lost the internet. So please jump in. And
don't worry. Yeah, let's go ahead then.
So, yeah, industry. So I've actually been in the industry for now almost 30 years. I'm like a very old man. But when you guys see behind the scenes, I mean, you see the cover or you see a photo shoot of, let's say, Deepika or Katrina, and then they show on YouTube, you find a lot of behind the scenes. So you see the makeup artist doing the hair, and then makeup is happening, and there's a rack of clothes, and the photographer is setting up lights in the studio, if it's indoor, otherwise outdoor. So they're all busy trying to do everything, and then she wears the clothes and comes out, and then click, 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 and then you see the end result. But what people don't realize is what Poonam and before that Arun mentioned, the whole idea of a concept. How did they come to that? How did they arrive on that? So that, I think, is something which a wonderfully rigorous, work hard but have fun curriculum provides. And most of our graduates actually are industry ready. We were not, in the sense I had to learn a lot of things on the job. When I joined a fashion magazine, I really didn't know how a fashion magazine works. But our students here, they are actually, so that whole process, how do they have the industry interaction, interface, and experience is what I'm going to show you. So they're actually industry ready, and it's a pleasure to have them as your deputy or even a colleague, because they have ideas, they are tech savvy. It's just wonderful. And that's all thanks to the wonderful curriculum we have made for you guys. Poonam, the slide has gone somewhere else. Right now it's showing field trips to me.
Yes, I think, what, this is when the students have actually gone to the Weavers Center, and, they went to basically go out to see how the textile is created, right? So that's also a very important part of product, because, if you look at a product, it's 80% material, right? Arun, please jump in if you have to over here. And it's 80% material. And what is this material? How is it created? What goes on, in creating it? So this was a trip that the two students had taken. And would you like to say a little bit more? Because, some of you're mute. Yeah, you're on mute. Please unmute.
So beyond the classroom, there are times that things are not feasible to do in classroom, or you want to show the whole process, how it works otherwise, is when field trips happen. So it gives you a hands-on working environment. It gives you a hands-on knowledge from the people who do it day in and day out. So field trips become an important factor in our curriculum as well, because sometimes we are just studying it, but when we see it, when we do it ourselves, it makes more sense because it also gives you an idea how to evolve from it. So that's why field trips are important in all domains of fashion. When you see it happening, you know how it works and you know how you can change it when you want to do it, or you add your own perspective to it to create something different.
Mohan, this one I think you'll
I'm taking
remember
over
this
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 one.
one.
So
Right?
basically, one of the things which we do for our students is what we call the live editorial. So we have actually a photo shoot or editorial conducted by professionals, industry stalwarts, and we have professional models. So what happened in this particular instance was the Poonam, of course, you see next to her is Ashima. She's a hair and makeup artist. So she actually demonstrated from scratch. The model was sitting on the chair, and we had this beautiful open air venue. And the model walks in, she sits on the chair, and she starts from the base foundation to the final shot. You know, the whole process. And we actually had on the extreme right, you see the lady in the coat. She is Nonita Kalra. She is an icon of the Indian fashion industry. She was the ex-editor of Elle India. Then she took over Harper's Bazaar and Brides Today. And now currently she is the editor of Tata Click Luxury. So she actually had a mic with her and she was giving live commentary between her and me. We were representing the editor and fashion director. So we were role playing that. And Ashima did the makeup first. And then Kunal is the guy who's had the mic in his hand. He took over. And then while he was shooting, in between the shot, used to take the mic and actually voice his thought process. So it was literally what we call a live editorial. And I think that way the kids actually get an idea of how a photo shoot takes place, because we were actually having commentary on that. So it's like watching an IPL match. Then we also have a lot of summits and talks we call industry stalwarts. Okay, you see Nonita again, but let me talk about Preeta. Preeta, who's sitting next to me, she is the founder and CEO of a brand called The Label Life, which you may have seen it. She also opened a brick and mortar store. I think now she has sold it for like a lot of money. And one of her brand ambassador was Malaika Roda. And I think she also had Bipasha Basu involved in it. And she was one of the first startups who there was the Amazon and, your Mintras, but in kind of this niche clothing startup where you didn't have like mass produced stuff. She was one of the first, and it was extremely popular. A lot of my kids used to shop there online. It was called The Label Life. I think she has sold it. I'm not too sure. So we used to, in front of the students, we have talks and, ask questions. The students have, so we had this whole evening, which we call like a fireside chat, where you get an idea how an industry functions. Then, of course, we have master classes. As you can see here, we have masterclass. There's Manisha Roda, there's Suzy Menkes, there's Little Shilpa, there's Bandana Tiwari from Vogue. Suzy Menkes was the digital content editor of Vogue International. I'm using was because I think she's also resigned currently, but she's again considered an international fashion icon. And she used to visit our fashion weeks, and she came and conducted master class for our students. So basically, it's like a one-hour kind of compressed, literally a fashion course. That's what we call master classes. They not only talk about the experience, but they also talk about how a thing gets to be done in the fashion. The process seems to be a key word which we are constantly using, all three of us, the process. Anyway, then we have, of course, field trips. So these are the kids. They've gone to the Vogue office here in Mumbai. And basically, they actually met the art directors. And these are the what we call the hidden people. They don't really come in front of the camera. Normally, you see the stylists and the photographers and makeup artists, but you really don't see how the layouts are done and the graphics are put together. So they went, interacted with them. So that was great. They also take trips to stores, boutiques, luxury retail. So they get an idea. Because normally what you do, you walk into a Dior store, you see 10 handbags, you pick up one and you leave, What is the thought process? What is the person behind the counter thinking? Why is she dressed in a particular way? Why is she so there is a way to conduct yourself. And then of course there is the backstory where the manager and brand representative in India. So I think you need to know, or which you can't sit in a classroom. So like Arun said, you need to go out. So we make sure our students get the exposure. So here they are at the Hermes boutique in Mumbai again. As you can see, Poonam is there in almost every picture. And then, of course, we have the industry people coming on reviews. So for final projects, we tend to call them twice. Our semester is for 15 weeks. So for the 10th week project, as well as the 15th, which is the final project, we like to call, of course, the faculty does the pre-review, but the final review, we like to call someone from the industry. So here is Rahul Vijay right at the center. He's again had his experience from GQ to L to Harper's, and currently he's also with Tata Click Luxury as the fashion director. And then we have design festivals where you have interaction with the industry, and the best part is it's also great for networking. You meet people, you can talk to them, and if you want stuff for your shoot, you can actually source from them, you can share content with them. So it's actually, networking is something which is very important, more so in the fashion industry, but it's actually applicable in every industry. So this design fest are great. Then of course we have a global connect with Parsons, and before pandemic, they used to come down regularly to our campus and give valuable feedback. Okay, we are as global as them, but it is the cultural difference which sometimes, we need to be, which we need to kind of share. So it's great to see, let's say, maybe he is, we can maybe you can see the American perspective vis-a-vis an Indian perspective, but the vision is all global always. So they usually come, give feedback, we do a display for them. So that's our connect with Parsons, and that's our international vibe at our school. Then, of course, not only when they graduate, they have the placements, so which we'll come to when we talk about the student journey, but within the course, as part of their project, like I said, the final project, they actually are encouraged to do collaborative studio where they kind of tie up with a brand, and with the faculty and the brand, they actually get the brief from the brand. And I think Poonam showed an example. And then they create the content according to the need of the brand, what the brand is looking for. And when they make the presentation, the faculty and the brand representative are there to give the feedback. So they kind of know where they're going wrong, where they're going right, or where, so that's, I think, is another way where industry interaction happens at a school. Then, of course, the student success. They've been look at it. I mean, you can see for yourself, there's Vogue, but I mean, they're working, I think now, increasingly, any kind of startup or an established brand magazine or a digital content provider or a brand strategist company, you see, you will always find ISD graduates working there. So our kids are working from Gucci, Coach, Calvin Klein, Vogue, Bazaar, they're all over. In fact, the recently conducted Lakme Fashion Week into FDCI in Delhi, there were at least 6 of our kids interning there between taxi and digital. Yeah.
Yes.
So Yeah, that's some of our student
And that's
journeys.
because it was in Delhi. If it was in Bombay, they would be definitely much more.
Yeah. So that's a student journey. It was Yashvi Arora. She actually worked with Manish Arora in the merchandising and sales intern. She, in fact, went to Paris Fashion Week along with Manish and his team. And she also worked with Vidya Tikari, who was a makeup artist. And currently, she is with Homegrown India Marketing and Social Media. And the next student is Param. Again, so this actually we basically through our 3 years. I mean, the first year is your foundation. After that, the 3 years in fashion. What we do every year, we start with something what we call the observership. So you just work with a company, but you're basically observing. And then the next year, you do apprenticeship, where you kind of are given certain responsibility, but not so much. And then in the third year, you become an intern. So you do your internship, where you are actually responsible for, in fact, one of our students currently working with L as an intern is responsible for an entire page. She sources, styles, shoots, I mean, obviously with the professionals, and does the layout and shows it to the editor. That's her responsibility. So now she's been given that, and she attends cover shoots, and she's become an important part of the team. So as an intern, you get to do much more. So we gradually introduce you into the industry, and through that, you can also experience various companies and various facets of fashion. Like you could be a styling intern in 1 year, and then you could do brand strategy for another year. You could be with a startup who does artificial intelligence. You could be that in 1 year. So you kind of, what do you call it? Test the waters, and you get an idea how diverse the fashion industry is and is continuing to be so. So currently he is with Future Group as a brand in the brand strategy and communication department. Then we have Diva Ganshani. She had worked for head of brand strategy for Tiani, which is Karan Johar's brand of jewelry. Then she was a fashion stylist with Verve. She was a fashion intern with Miss Malini. And now she is marketing international brands, Nika. Then we have Amrita Mahesh. Again, she's worked with Grazia, Bombay Times Fashion Week, Space Muffin, styling intern at Bazaar, and then now brand associate with Pure Earth. She's even went to London Fashion Week for backstage management and styling intern. So you have not only the Indian fashion industry exposure, we give you the international exposure as well. And then we have Vama Kothari, who was with Vogue, then Style Nook, then Luxury Report, and currently she's become the editor of a magazine called Masala, which comes out of Dubai in United Arab Emirates. And she's, I mean, so if you notice, why we're showing in the student journey is that she did Style Nook, she did Associate, she did Luxury Report, but then her Vogue experience has led to her becoming the editor of a magazine. So that's how your observership, apprenticeship, and internship connect to your final placement and what you end up doing. And that's Ria Abraham-Purka. She's a stylist with Grain Consultancy currently. And she again has been an assisting designer. She's been a fashion intern with Grain. In fact, they liked her so much that they offered her a job. Now that also happens. And then you have Anushri Musaddi, who is currently with DDB Mudra Group as an associate creative partner. Now that, and she actually was, so it's purely based on what she had done, plus a wonderful, wonderful thesis project. No, don't you agree, Poonam?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I just wanted to jump in and say the reason we are showing you, the student journey is just a couple of things. First, the industry interaction. Now, obviously, life beyond the classroom, is extremely important because you learn at every stage, whether it's through a field trip, whether it's talking to an expert. But also, when you go out into the industry, with our unique observership, apprenticeship, and internship, is something that you're constantly, people say, are you industry ready? I think you're industry ready always at ISTE, because that's how what the curriculum brings in, that's what the structure brings in. So right from your first year studies, people sometimes have a lot of anxiety about how are they going to face in the third year. Many schools let you do that in the third year. But here, you're always in constant touch with people from the industry. So, it's evolving together. All right. So the student journey also tells you, I think we'll have to mute. I don't know, I feel there's some disturbance. So student journeys tell you many stories about how students come in, what they do in college, and what they become, and what they really finally choose. I will not stop at what they choose at this point of time, actually, Mohan and Arun, right? Because this ever evolving career, if some of them have been working as stylists and have become brand associates, who knows, they'll go back to styling again. So that's a kind of robust, education that, we bring to you. That's a kind of curriculum that we bring to you. It's also, like I said, it's all blurring. The lines are blurring. So, the designer may become a stylist. A stylist may want to be a merchandiser tomorrow. A merchandiser may want to go and become a brand manager or a CEO of a company. It's limitless. So I think the whole ISDE experience hones you for such a journey. Anando said it's for 2060. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine the world, but we prepare you for that journey forward. So that's essentially what the reason we're showing it. It's quite diverse, and it's going to be diverse as you grow also within the industry, right? Arun and Mohan, if you may want to add something.
No, kind of.
Yeah, and finally, I want to take you to the capstone part, which is also very important. And the capstone journey is also something that starts in your thesis here. We do academic thesis, and we also do something aligned with industries called the capstone. Mohan, you can take it forward from here, please.
No, so this is Nishtha. So she actually is doing a capstone project with this brand called Qua, who do working women clothes. In fact, her capstone project was basically, other than, of course, she's doing the content for them, etc. She's also looking up at their digital strategies and social media. They asked her to actually design an event. So she, from the printing of the invitation to making the guest list, to calling the influencers, to getting a caterer, to deciding on the menu, which will reflect Qua. Basically, that is an idea that they wanted to have like an evening where they kind of show their philosophy to certain select elite crowd. And she actually designed this entire event, which I thought was a very, very exciting project to do. So, and that became her capstone. And then we have Priyuta, who I just mentioned. She is the intern actually with El India, who's been responsible for a page, and now she has been given the responsibility for the digital content, because El India was seriously lacking in the digital presence was very, very weak. So she has been given the responsibility of doing it.
In fact, sorry, Mohan, I just want to intervene. She brought that to the table. She was not given by Ellen. I mean, they agreed mutually later, but she proposed that as a capstone. She wanted to take forward the digital.
Most of the capstone projects are your proposal. It's not the brand who tells you. You propose to the brand, and if they think it matches their philosophy, then obviously, you go ahead with it. But it is your proposal. So she came up with the idea. Even Nishtha, she's the one who said, let's do an event. Similarly, our third student, the next.
Also, if you look at the past 3 L covers, that's been all of our 3 students who have been a part of the styling, whether it's Alia Bhatt, Ananya Pandey, and the recent Siddhant Chaturvedi one. They've all had our students involved. And I wanted to say this to all of you. The opportunity to work with the kind of people that you've aspired all your life to work with happens being in fashion. Right?
So you do see a bit of glitz and glamour. We don't say that it's not there, is there? there is a lot of hard work, but there is a bit of glitz and glamour. I said, okay, then we have Riddhi. So she actually really wanted to do her thesis, which then becomes a capstone with Tata Click Luxury, and the editor, Nonita, who I just mentioned, really liked her, and they took her on not only for the capstone, but also took her on as an intern. And I think within 2 days, we got an email from Nonita Poonam.
Yeah, I think 48 hours.
48 hours, we got an email from Nonita saying that she is absolutely floored with the kind
Very
of
difficult
stuff.
very difficult for coming from Donita to say this, right?
The
say
kind
this for
of,
someone.
yeah, the kind of presence Riddhi was bringing to the table, the kind of knowledge and the kind of savviness which she had, and the kind of awareness of the industry. Like I said, our kids are industry ready. Nonita actually sent us a mail saying with less than 2 days that she's absolutely floored by this. In fact, I met her personally, and she said that it's an absolute jewel of a student, and she actually thanked us for training her so well, which I thought was a compliment. Plus, she's also has she wants to do a lot more looking at Riddhi's capabilities. She, in fact, was talking about a lot more collaboration with us. And she, in fact, wants to start a digital magazine, which will be run by the students of Riddhi. She has many thoughts and feelings. So she's actually asked for a meeting with Poonam, Arun, and me at some point, I think, when we'll all get together. And so there's excitement happening from, so the industry sometimes reaches out to us also, seeing the capability of a student. So that brings a lot of excitement as well. So yeah, so that was our journey. And with that, I come to the end of this presentation journey, unless Arun and Poonam wants to add something.
Thank you, Mohan, for presenting the entire industry, perspective. Arun has something to say, I suppose.
Like what Mohan said, most of the courses, with all the inputs given, is related to what industry is looking for. So in the classroom is like a mini industry, and you go out in a bigger industry. So just to give a glimpse that as a student, you're not treated as a student, but you're treated as a semi-professional in class, that you don't think we are students, but we treat you as professionals because you're in the industry. So the rigor is like the industry. So the classroom project might sound like a classroom project, but it's like an industry project, so that when you go out, it looks professional. So everything you do in class has to be a professional level result.
Absolutely. I think we constantly say industry as the third person or third party, but I think we are the industry, and we continuously are the people who shape the industry, because eventually who are these professionals? A part of a school. So I think that's a great it's a great note to end on, and that's it from our side. Krish, would you be taking over from here?
Yes, absolutely. I think this
We're here for Q&A.
Yes, of course. If anyone has any questions, we can take them. But my sense is that you all have answered anything and everything that could have popped up in any student's mind. So it was quite exhaustive, quite thorough, and I think presentations were completely on point when you look at it that way. We can take a few questions. I'll put a message in the chat box in case someone has any questions. We can, of course, raise that for our panelists here. But that being said, it's Poonam ma'am, you had said this in the beginning as well, to see all three of y'all on the screen together. I think this is a moment because y'all are like the powerhouses of fashion at B.Des, right? And to have all of y'all together on one panel, it's astounding. I think it's quite an experience. And the recording of this session is going to be, I think, getting the maximum views that we've ever got. So
seeing is not believing. Be with us physically, then you'll know the excitement which happens, right? The rush,
Yeah.
the energy, the adrenaline which flows while doing something is when we have fun. Talking is okay, we can give you that, but when you're experiencing it, then you know that, oh, this is how what entails in fashion. Then it's then it's exciting.
Absolutely. Truer words haven't been said, Arun sir. Thank you so much.
We are very dramatic, all three of us.
Like Mohan
There's
says,
a lot
if
of
there's no
drama.
drama, it doesn't happen, right? There has
What-
to be some drama.
There has to be drama.
What's life without some drama? So thank you for getting that in. But yes, we see a lot of compliments coming in today for this session. And with that, of course, I'd like to thank everyone, Poonam ma'am, Arun sir, Mohan sir, for being on this call, for telling us more about fashion and explaining the whole a trajectory that a student would take up right from day one to day forever. That being said, have a lovely evening, everyone. I hope, yes, Arun sir, you have something to say.
Just to add that whatever fashion bit you see on TV and all, which sounds very exciting, but there is lots of hard work which goes behind it. So if you're looking into getting into fashion, be mentally and physically be prepared to do that hard work. So it is not
I
just
think,
wow factor. It is
you
like,
know, Arun, there are no questions and there are only compliments. I can see that on the chat box. So I think the students have understood everything so well,
Yeah.
right? We're going to have a great and an awesome batch already ready. They know everything what we do. So let's see what they bring to the table. I'm so excited to receive this batch whenever they sign in, right?
Lovely. Poonam ma'am, you've had the last word. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of the session. Take care, and I hope to see you all very soon, maybe in the classroom, maybe on another call or somewhere else. Take care. Have fun. Leaving you all.
Bye.